You're not tired because you're busy. You're tired because you own too much. Not just physical things, subscriptions you forgot you had, conversations you're still replaying, clothes you haven't touched in 3 years but can't bring yourself to release, notifications, obligations, options, all of it sitting in your mind, running in the background, draining something you can't name. There's a word in Japanese that has no direct translation in English, motenai. It means the profound feeling of regret over waste, but not the waste you're thinking of. The Japanese don't use this word to describe throwing things away. They use it to describe what happens when something of value goes unused, unappreciated, unrealized. Here's what that means for your life right now. Every hour you spend managing, organizing, searching through, thinking about, or feeling guilty over things you own but don't actually use, that's motenai. That's irreplaceable time gone. That's mental energy that could have been presence, creativity, peace, wasted on objects that were supposed to serve you. And the Japanese discovered something 500 years ago that the modern world has completely buried. The problem is never the clutter. The clutter is just the symptom. The real problem is what the clutter is doing to your consciousness, and why you keep creating it in the first place. Today you're going to understand 3 Japanese principles that work together to dismantle that cycle completely. Not just in your space, in your mind, in your time, in the way you move through your entire life. This isn't a decluttering video. This is something older and far more powerful than that. Before we go further, tell me in the comments what's one thing you own right now that you know you should release but haven't. Write it down, because awareness is always the first move. Now, let's begin. Part 1. What you are actually wasting. Motenai, the true cost. Most people think minimalism is about sacrifice. You give things up, you live with less. You deprive yourself of comfort for the sake of some aesthetic you saw on Pinterest. That's the Western interpretation. Minimalism as a design choice, a lifestyle brand. Something people do to feel superior at dinner parties. That's not what this is. Motenai doesn't ask you to sacrifice anything. It asks you to see clearly what you're already sacrificing without realizing it. Consider a single morning in your life. Your alarm goes off. Before you've been awake for 60 seconds, your mind is already processing. The clothes pile on the chair, the notification on your phone, the thing you forgot to reply to, the bag you packed wrong, the thing you were going to do this week that you still haven't done. By the time you've made coffee, you've already spent dozens of small but real units of mental energy, not on anything that matters. Not on anything you chose, just on the background weight of everything that exists in your environment and your mind. Multiply that by every morning, every room you walk into, every drawer you open, every surface you look at. This is what the Japanese call cognitive load. The ongoing tax your mind pays simply to track, categorize, and make micro-decisions about everything in your environment. And unlike your phone battery, you don't see the percentage dropping, you just notice, somewhere around mid-afternoon, that something is depleted, that you're irritable, unfocused, foggy, that you don't have the energy for the things that actually matter. Research from Princeton's Neuroscience Institute found that visual clutter actively competes for your brain's attention and processing resources, reducing your ability to focus and increasing your levels of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. The objects aren't passive, they're making demands. Every single one of them. Motenai says, look at what you're spending, not money, life. The average person spends 12 hours every week managing their possessions, cleaning them, searching for them, moving them from one place to another, feeling vaguely guilty about the ones they haven't used. That's 12 hours a week. Over a year, that's 26 full days. Over a decade, that's 8 months of your life spent serving objects that were supposed to serve you. 8 months. What would 8 months look like if you had them back? Not in one block, but returned to you in small pieces every single day. 12 hours a week of stillness, presence, creativity, connection. Returned. That's not a small thing. That's a life. And here's the part that makes Motenai so uncomfortable. You chose this. Not consciously, not maliciously, but through 1,000 small decisions to acquire, to keep, to hold on just in case. Each one rational in isolation, catastrophic in accumulation. The waste isn't in releasing things. The waste is in continuing to hold what no longer serves you. That's the first shift, and it changes everything that comes after. Part 2. The philosophy of empty. Negative space as living thing. There's a concept in Japanese aesthetics, architecture, music, and daily life that Westerners consistently misunderstand when they first encounter it. Literally translated, it means gap, pause, space, emptiness. But the translation doesn't capture what Ma actually is, because in Japanese philosophy, Ma isn't the absence of something, Ma is something. It is a living, active, breathing presence that only becomes possible when you stop filling every available space. Senno Rikyu, the 16th century tea master who shaped Japanese aesthetics more than any other single person, built his entire philosophy of the tea ceremony around Ma. The tea room contained exactly what was needed and nothing more. Not because more would be ugly, but because more would destroy the Ma. It would fill the space that breath needs to move through, that thought needs to emerge in, that beauty needs to land. He taught that a room without Ma is a room that suffocates everything inside it. Now look at your life. Your calendar has no Ma. Every hour is scheduled, committed, spoken for, and you wonder why you feel no spaciousness, no room to think, no capacity for anything unexpected or beautiful or deeply felt. Your phone has no Ma. Every moment of potential stillness is immediately filled with content, stimulation, input, and you wonder why your mind feels like a browser with 40 tabs open and no memory left. Your physical space has no Ma. Every surface holds something. Every drawer is full. Every corner is occupied. And you wonder why being home doesn't feel like rest. This isn't metaphor. This is neurologically literal. Your brain requires unstructured, understimulated time to consolidate memory, generate creative insight, process emotion, and restore attentional capacity. This is what neuroscientists call the default mode network, the brain's resting state that is anything but passive. It's where your most important cognitive work happens, and it only activates in the presence of Ma, in stillness, in empty space, in the pauses you've been systematically eliminating because they felt like wasted time. The pauses weren't wasted, they were where you actually lived. Rikyu's tea room worked because every element in it was intentional, which meant the empty space between elements was also intentional. The silence between words in a conversation is what gives the words meaning. The rest between notes is what makes music music rather than noise. The empty wall is what makes the single hanging scroll extraordinary. When everything is filled, nothing has value. When everything is present, nothing can be felt. Ma isn't something you create by removing objects. It's something that reveals itself when you stop being afraid of emptiness. Most people are afraid of emptiness, not abstractly, viscerally. Sit alone without your phone for 20 minutes and feel what happens. The discomfort is real. The urge to fill the space is almost physical. That's not boredom. That's an untrained relationship with stillness. That's a mind that has never been allowed to simply breathe. What Mud asks of you is not deprivation. It's permission. Permission to let some spaces stay empty. Permission to let some hours go unscheduled. Permission to sit in a room with less in it and discover that what you feel is not loss. What you feel is relief. Part 3. Why you're still holding on. The internal layer. Before we get to the practice, there's something that has to be said directly. You already know you have too much. You've known it for a while. You've watched the videos, read the articles, felt the pull towards simplicity, and you're still surrounded by the same things, maybe more of them. Because the problem was never knowledge. The problem is that your possessions are not random accumulation. They are a carefully constructed defense system. Every object you're holding onto that you don't actually use is protecting you from something you don't want to feel. This isn't poetic language. This is behavioral psychology. Consumer research consistently shows that acquiring objects provides temporary relief from anxiety, emptiness, grief, and existential discomfort. The shopping, the organizing, it medicates something. And until you understand what it's medicating, you will keep recreating the clutter no matter how many times you clear it. Think about the categories. There are the future self objects, the things you bought for the person you're planning to become, the guitar you haven't played, the cookbooks for the dinner parties you'll host, the expensive running shoes for the version of you that wakes up at 5 a.m. These objects aren't about your actual life. They're about a fantasy self you've been meaning to become, and keeping them lets you maintain the fantasy without doing the work. Releasing them requires you to either become that person or grieve the gap between who you are and who you imagined. There are the past self objects, the things that anchor you to who you used to be or who you were with, the box of things from a relationship that ended, the memorabilia from a chapter of life that closed, the clothes from a body or a decade you've moved on from. These aren't really objects, they're grief that hasn't been processed, and as long as they sit in your space, you remain partly in that past. There are the fear objects, the just-in-case items, the duplicates, the things you keep because releasing them feels like inviting disaster. These are anxiety made physical, and they grow, because anxiety, when you give it room, always grows. None of this means your possessions are bad or that you are broken. It means you are human, and you've been doing what humans do. using the external world to manage your internal one. Ma cannot exist in a space that is being used for defense. The stillness that Japanese minimalism points toward, the spaciousness, the peace, the sense of breathing room, only becomes available when you're willing to sit with what the objects have been protecting you from. Not forever. Not in one sitting, but honestly, with eyes open. The Japanese have a phrase for this kind of sitting. Just sitting. Not meditating on something. Not trying to achieve something. Just being present with what is. With the grief, the fear, the gaps between who you are and who you wanted to be. And what the practice reliably shows, across traditions and centuries, is this: the thing you were most afraid to feel is almost never as devastating as the avoidance of it. The grief moves through, the fear softens, the gap becomes workable, and on the other side of that sitting, you find that you need less. Not because you forced yourself to want less, but because the need the objects were filling has finally been met by something real. Part 4. The practice. Dansari. Refuse, dispose, separate. Now you have the why. Now you need the how. Dansari is a Japanese concept built from 3 kanji, each one a complete instruction. Dan, refuse. The first practice isn't about what you release. It's about what you stop allowing in. Every object you don't bring home is an object you never have to release. This is the most powerful point of leverage in the entire system, and it's the one almost nobody talks about, because there's no market in it. No one profits from you buying less. But consider what happens when you apply a single question to everything before it enters your space. Does this serve my actual life, right now, as I am actually living it? Not the life I'm performing, not the life I'm planning, but the life I am in. Most things don't survive that question, and everything that doesn't enter your space is a unit of future cognitive load, future maintenance, future guilt that never gets created. Dan is the upstream intervention. Get this right and everything downstream becomes easier. Sha. Dispose, release. This is the part most people call decluttering. And most people do it wrong. They go room by room, filling bags, making quick decisions, and within 6 months the space looks the same again, because they were addressing objects, not the patterns that created them. Sha done correctly isn't a purge, it's a conversation. You pick up an object, and before you decide what to do with it, you ask, what is this actually for in my life right now? Not what it was for, not what it might be for, right now. And then you sit with the honest answer. The Dansari approach doesn't use sentiment as a reason to keep. It uses active function. If an object has genuine sentimental value, it stays. But sentiment means it carries real emotional meaning in your present life. Not just that you feel vaguely guilty about releasing it. Guilt is not sentiment. Guilt is fear wearing sentiment's clothes. The release isn't the end of the relationship with the object. In Japanese culture, there's a practice of thanking objects before releasing them, acknowledging what they gave you, what chapter they belong to, and then consciously closing that chapter. This isn't mysticism, it's a psychological completion ritual that allows you to release without the residue of unfinished emotional business dragging behind you. Separate. Create distance. The third practice is about the ongoing relationship between you and your possessions, moving from unconscious accumulation to intentional curation. Means you are no longer defined by what you own, you are separate from it, you choose it deliberately, you use it fully, and you release it when it has served its purpose. This is the practice that makes the transformation permanent rather than cyclical. Most people declutter and reaccumulate because they changed their space but not their relationship to objects. Changes the relationship. When you are separate from your possessions, when your identity, your security, your sense of self are not stored in them, the compulsion to accumulate loses its power. You shop differently. You keep differently. You release easily because nothing essential to you is leaving when the object leaves. Here is what the practice looks like in a single week. On day 1, you don't touch anything. You walk through your space and simply observe. Notice what you haven't touched in 3 months. Notice what makes you feel heavy when you look at it. Notice where the ma is being blocked. Just observe. Don't decide anything yet. On day 2, you begin with one surface, one drawer, one corner, not the whole space, one contained area. You remove everything. You look at the empty space for a moment. You notice how it feels. Then you return only what you actually use and genuinely want. Everything else goes into a box. On days 3 through 7, you repeat this with one area per day. You don't rush. You sit with each object honestly. The box at the end of the week doesn't need to be decided immediately. Live without those objects for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, you will know with absolute clarity what to release and what to reclaim. Because the things that serve your actual life, you will have missed them. And the things that were just filling space, you won't have thought about them once. Part 5. What returns when you release? Motonai, the reframe. Here's what nobody tells you about the other side of this. When you clear the cognitive load, the peace that arrives isn't quiet in the way people describe peace. Passive, still, empty of feeling. It's alive. It has texture. You notice more. You're present in a way you forgot was possible. The cup of coffee in the morning isn't background to the scrolling. It's the thing itself, actually tasted, actually experienced. Motonai comes full circle here. You thought the waste was in releasing things, but the real waste, the irreversible, impossible to recover waste, was the years of your life spent in a space so full that you couldn't actually feel it. The meals eaten distracted, the conversations half present, the mornings lost to the fog of too much everything. That's what was being wasted. What returns when you release is attention. And attention is the only currency that matters. It's what you give to your children when you're actually in the room with them. It's what you bring to your work when your mind isn't fractured across 40 unresolved objects and obligations. It's what you offer yourself when you sit in a space that has that has breathing room, and discover that you are enough in it. Sen no Rikyu held tea ceremonies in rooms that contained almost nothing, and people left those ceremonies describing them as the most profound experiences of their lives. Not because of the tea, because of the because of the quality of presence that becomes possible when everything unnecessary has been removed and only the essential remains. Your life is the tea ceremony. You bring only what's needed. You create space for what matters. You're present for each moment as it actually arrives rather than filtered through the weight of everything you've accumulated. Motonai says, don't waste what's irreplaceable. Your time is irreplaceable. Your attention is irreplaceable. Your presence in the lives of people you love is irreplaceable. The object is not. That's the entire teaching. Everything else is just practice. If this landed somewhere real for you, please subscribe to the channel. New videos drop every week. And leave a comment. Tell me, what is this video giving you permission to release? One thing. Specific. Write it down in the comments right now. Because the moment you name it, it's already halfway gone. The Japanese have a word for the moment just before transformation. The pause. The space between what was and what's coming. You're in it right now. What you do with it is yours to choose. Thank you for watching. See you next time. And as always, remember to stay in tune with your own mind frequency.